Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schroeder. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Today we have Elyssa Friedland on the show. She's a multiple New York Times bestselling author of Last Summer at the Golden Hotel, as well as Love and Miscommunication, a novel, The Intermission, and The Floating Feldmans. So without further ado, Elyssa, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We brought you on the show because you have a very, very thought-provoking background. I think a lot of people during the pandemic, post-pandemic, realize that there are a lot of opportunities and you don't have to take that linear path. You went to an Ivy League school, you went to law school, you were a corporate attorney, and then you decided to shift gears and become an author of novels, fiction.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, I really always wanted to be a writer from the time I was very young, but I have to say that I felt nervous. I really didn't know how to make it happen. I think that the school has done a better job, or schools in general are doing a better job now of helping people get into creative careers, because like with the internet and social media, it's easier to connect to alumni who are working in the fields that you're interested in. But when I was in school, it wasn't that easy, and there wasn't a roadmap of like how to graduate and become a novelist. And I was fearful of like just graduating and sitting in a cafe all day writing. Also, like practically, that wasn't gonna enable me to support myself. So I went to law school as sort of like a fallback, which I think a lot of people do, actually, because it's safe, it's interesting. If you like being a student, you get to extend the student plan for 3 more years. And a lot of people say, like, conventional wisdom is like, you'll never regret having the degree. So I did it, and I didn't hate law school by any means. I enjoyed being a student. I felt young and I liked that academic setting. But then when I graduated and I went to work for a law firm, I only lasted 3 years. I really didn't like it. I'm super creative, and the job just did not enable me to be creative or imaginative.
Were you at one of those big law firms like Milbank Tweed or
Yes.
D&E? Okay. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't have a single friend who's happy. In fact, I would say half of them did the same thing you did. They left within 3 to 4 years.
Yes, I think that a lot of people burn out. I didn't quite burn out, I'm more bored out, I would say. My hours weren't even that atrocious, but I just didn't like feel passion for what I was doing. So I just decided to take a leap of faith, and I started to write my first book. It took me a really long time to write the first book. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I also felt like I hadn't sold anything. So I didn't have any deadline. I didn't have a boss. I didn't have a publisher asking me for it. And so like, it was kind of a protracted process, and I didn't have the discipline to sit down and like, I was used to working in an office where you had to show up, and this is like totally self-directed. So the first book took me a bunch of years to write. But then after that, like that was it. I was on the path. Like I now churn out books pretty quickly. I have deadlines. I'm really a working author, which is much more satisfying for me.
You teach creative writing at Yale. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, in today's society, I feel like when it comes to the educational system in general, most kids and especially adults kind of feel the creativity beaten out of them in a lot of ways. Can you talk about ways that you help people kind of give themselves permission to be more creative and to think of ideas that they might think are ridiculous? Because that's one thing that a lot of people who are thinking about running their own business run into problem-wise is, I don't know what to do, and it's hard for them to think outside of the very small way that they look at their skills and their job abilities.
Well, I know my students, when they take my class, are so happy for the opportunity to write creatively. And they say, like, it's been years since we've written anything but an academic paper or a research paper, a history paper, a political science paper. And when the assignment is like, write 20 pages, like write a first chapter of a book, write anything you want. Like, they feel so unconstrained, and I think they're excited, but there's also like a fear element, like they have that like blank page, like they're staring at the blank page and they're not sure what to write down. So I think it's like a double-edged sword in a way. Like, they feel free and they are excited to do something that many of them haven't done since they were in high school or even middle school. And they're like, wow, we haven't written anything creative in years. But by the same token, there are less boundaries. It's not like, explain how the Russian Revolution changed the economy and, in Russia. Like, that's a very different kind of a paper, So I think there's also like writer's block comes up for these students, which is not something that they typically experience when they have to do their college assignments. But as far as like permission, I mean, we start every class with like a creativity opener, which is like, I usually give them like some totally oddball assignment. Like, I'll put 3 totally unrelated words up on the board, and I just say, write a sentence and use all 3 of these words. And the point is just to like open up their mind. I feel like it's like a sealed drawer, and I just want to start every class with the drawer open. So by giving them these like ways to tap into creativity the minute we start the class, it's like permission to be creative.
Yeah, and in your latest book, speaking of creativity, you talk about how life would be without social media and technology. So what do you share in that book? What are your opinions on how life would be? Would it be better or worse, or a little bit of both?
I mean, right, that was my first novel. I was really fixated on everybody constantly being on their phones, and just even besides like the fact that you're distracted when you're at dinner, when you're on your phone, or you're not making eye contact, I felt like there's very little mystery left, and you just know so much about people. Like, anyone who's interested in me and wants to read my books will go online and go to my website, and they know so much about me, which is good in some ways. It's probably good for business, but it's like, on the other hand, there's no sort of just random discovery. And I think that's like a lot when you date. If you go on a date, you probably have like done such a deep dive on the person before you go out that you don't really get that like organic getting to know you.
You're like scientifically matched nowadays.
Exactly. And so that was something I was interested in writing about for my first book.
For me personally, I think life without technology would be really rough, but life without social media would be liberating and exciting. Like, I love the fact, I heard a comedian that I like, Nate Bargatze, he talked about how he's roughly the same age as me, and he said we're the Oregon Trail generation, how we have kind of the best of both worlds, how, when we were younger, nothing was documented. Like, whatever I did in high school it just happened and people can talk about it, but you can't prove it. But, we would go outside and our parents wouldn't know where we were. But now we have all the joys of technology. So what would you say in regards to the social media aspect?
I'm really conflicted. Social media is really nice for me because I connect with readers and other writers. And I really do have a community of writer friends that is significantly stronger than it would be because of social media. It's just how we can all stay in touch and support each other. And yesterday was my publication day for last summer at the Golden Hotel. And I felt like such an outpouring of love from all these writers and readers. And so that's amazing. I think that I'm upset how often I pick up my phone. Like, I'll check everything, and then 5 minutes later, I see I'm back in Instagram. And like, what really changed in the last 5 minutes? I mean, I wish I was more disciplined about looking every 2 hours instead of every 5 minutes. And I don't know if it's like a fidgetiness, or we don't know what to do with our hands, or we need another like hit of dopamine, which I think gets released when you check your phone. I'm not sure. But so I would not want to do away with social media at all, especially with my job. And because I'm a writer and I'm creative, social media also enables me to be creative. And it doesn't require me to write an entire novel to do it. Like, I can write a caption that's witty. I can, put up a picture in my stories and have some funny line attached to it. So I get to like express myself through social media, but I have to curtail how much I'm on it.
Agreed. Also, in your books, speaking of social media, whether it's good or bad, you touch on working from home. And I'm not sure if you work from home. You used to work in a corporate law firm, so you probably were at a cubicle before. But do you think working from home is a good thing or bad thing?
I'm very against work from home. I'm probably in the minority. I know.
Well, that's good because our show is about working from home, and we have all these people come on and they're like, yeah, work from home is the future. Here's how to work from home. This is what you should do. So let's hear what you have to say.
Listen, I think it's like there's also depends on your circumstances. During when the pandemic hit in March and my children, I have 3 young kids, didn't have school, working from home was horrible. I was also running 3 children to homeschool all day, with constant problems with connectivity and Zoom and printing out their assignments, and even just the distraction of hearing their voices all the time. Like, it was
you should have listened to our show. We did a few episodes on Adam homeschools his 4 kids before the pandemic, full time.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I can't understand that. Like, I am so fascinated by that, and I have so much respect for people who can do it. It must be like
technology.
It just must be a very patient person also. I don't know. I was really struggling with it and working and being home with the children at the same time. I personally like to leave the house. I don't think it's necessary to have an office. I think a lot of writers just sit in Starbucks. This wasn't possible during COVID, but in general, I know plenty of writers that go to the library, or they are part of a writer's room or a coffee shop, and that's where they write. And that, I feel like it's nice because you just see different people. Like, I really like getting out of the house, even if I don't have conversations. I live in New York City. I enjoy the hustle and bustle. I like seeing the faces of strangers. And I spent a lot of time listening to the Happiness podcast, Laurie Santos's podcast about how to be happier. And she talks a lot about the joy we get from incidental interactions. So like the dry cleaner, the taxi cab driver, the person you bump into on the street, that you haven't seen in a while. And I definitely feel like I was depressed during COVID because I did not have those incidental interactions that I craved.
So what did you do to successfully, write and continue working from home? What were some of the things that you had to implement that you felt helped?
Oh, God. I just really leaned on my husband a lot. I said, you got to step up. I know that you're used to me handling most of the things with the children, but I'm on a book deadline and I really can't do this. I got better about just when I closed my office door. I have a small office at home. I was like, you can't, to the children, like you can't come in. Like, if the door is closed, you really can't come in, and just firm boundaries. And it started to bother me. I felt guilty. And I don't know how much guilt fathers have. I'd be curious. I always have mom guilt all the time, but I tried to talk myself out of it and say, there's no point in having mom guilt. I'm devoted to them, but I'm entitled to have a career as well. But it's not easy. It's a struggle. I also felt like we were eating every meal together, and then lunch kind of went by the wayside. I was like, we don't need to sit together for 3 meals a day as a family. It's lovely to have dinner together, but there's no reason we have to sit for a formal breakfast and lunch, So I just wanted to carve my own space, and then things were better over the summer, where we were out in our summer home, and COVID numbers were really low, and the summer felt pretty good. And then, we were in for a rough fall and winter, and now there's light at the end of the tunnel again. So it's been up and down.
Dads can feel guilty too. But it depends on how involved they are, I think, because I got a lot of friends who are dads. I'm a stay-at-home dad myself. Adam's a stay-at-home dad. And the fathers who aren't as involved, who just go to work and maybe put the kids to bed at night, I don't think they feel as guilty as the ones who are spending 10 hours a day plus with the child or with the children. So men have the guilt feelings as well.
Yeah. No, I'm sure.
But well,
I'm
the
always
big
curious.
difference is though that men have the guilt, but it's not coming from other dads. I feel like moms have the guilt, and it's because you're looking at other, like you feel the guilt that the dads feel, but then there's also the pressure of the other moms being like, well, why aren't you doing this? And that
Oh
pressure
yeah,
isn't there, so it's nice not to have that.
Yeah.
in fact, it's the opposite. It's like, man, you're stay at home. Like, how do you do it? Like, that's so hard. Like, I would never do that.
I think my husband feels that way. Like that staying at home would be much harder. He's like thrilled to go to work.
Yeah. I've heard that multiple times from people, but they do appreciate it. I will say they absolutely do appreciate it. And I was somewhat like that for the first few months of my son's life, simply because I had no idea how to even hold a baby. I'd never played with a baby or anything. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to watch everyone else do what needs to be done. And then when I'm forced to do it, then I'll start picking up the slack. So at the end, parents are parents, and you got a parent. You can't have somebody else raise your child.
Right. No, of course. 100%.
So you wrote the book Love and Miscommunication, a novel, tying it in, the concept of love, tying it into today's environment. What are your tips for having healthy marriages while working from home? You talked a little bit about how your household changed, but you write a lot about love and marriages. What are your thoughts?
That's interesting. Well, I'm certainly not an expert, and I feel like working from home, both spouses working from home probably is not that common a condition, I would think. Right? I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be. So I feel like in most cases, except during, of course, the pandemic. I mean, for me, it was like just about having like boundaries and space. And like I said, like cutting out, like not eating every meal together. And I even like, of course, during the pandemic, I had nowhere to go other than we'd go to CVS and pick up our prescriptions or go to the grocery store. And that's it. There was nothing going on. And my husband, I think, he's just like a very nice, friendly guy. And he would just always say to me, like, he would see me leave the house and he would say, oh, where are you going? And for some reason, like I started to just resent it over time. I was like, I just want to go, like, because I'm used to, like, where could I possibly be going? Like, I'm either going to CVS or Stop and Shop. Like, or to fill up with gas. Like, there are so few places I could be going. Like, I'm talking the depth of the pandemic, But for some reason, it bothered me because now I wasn't up to anything, but I'm used to having complete freedom during the day, and I don't like someone asking me where I'm going. I don't know. So I just said, like, you know what? Like, I know that you're just being nice and just trying to chit chat, but like, just when I leave, just let me leave. Like, let me go. Maybe I'm just going.
I agree with that. But the media really made a big deal about the rise of Ashley Madison during the pandemic. It was like a 60% increase in membership.
Really?
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Like, I would think it would like plummet because you can't see anyone.
You don't have to see anyone for Ashley Madison. It's digital dating. Digital dating nowadays is digital.
So it's like over text and FaceTime and stuff like that. Like you connect.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't used it, but I guess so. You can see the artist. So I think it was.
They had to adjust their business model too.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
It was like nearly 20% increase the first month. So March, April 2020, it was like a 20% increase. And you have to remember, you have to provide some kind of proof that, because they don't want like single 25-year-olds on this site. They want like people in relationships, married people. So you're essentially living with your partner, like in bed and on your phone using Ashley Madison next to them, and they have no idea.
Wow, that's so interesting. Did not know.
So where are you finding the inspiration for all of your stories? Kind of what's been your biggest creative boost for you?
I would say, I mean, my third novel, The Floating Feldmans, was probably the one where I found my voice the most and sort of the lane that I want to stay in. And that was about a semi-dysfunctional family, 3 generations, that reunites on a cruise ship together to celebrate the grandmother's 70th birthday. And I really loved writing from many points of view, having a big cast of characters so that every reader could find somebody that they related to. And I loved all the family drama and the dynamics. I just thought, I don't know, I loved that. And I wanted to stick with it. And people really responded well to it. Like the reviews were great. And so many people were like, it's like you were writing about my own family. So then for my novel that just came out this week, yesterday, last summer at the Golden Hotel, I said, I want to stick with family. I want to stick with multi-generational stories and the clash between siblings, the clash between mothers and daughters and fathers and sons. And because I have two families that co-own this hotel in the Catskills, that's what the book is about, a hotel that's really failing, and there's an offer to sell it. And these two families the owners have to come together and decide what to do. Because I had 3 generations, I got to get into all that generational warfare, but I also had family friends. So I got to get into friendship dynamics. And especially, I think friendships are complicated when there's a shared business involved. And so I was able to tap into that, which I'd never gotten to write about before. And I generally get my ideas because I think about what interests me, and then I just decide to write about it. So I'm fascinated by hotels. I'm fascinated by the Catskills. I love Dirty Dancing. I like the idea of family businesses and all the issues they create. And I like to write humorously, so I try to find situations that will lend themselves to humor, and I just go with it.
Elyssa Friedland, thanks so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. Multiple New York Times bestselling author of Love and Miscommunication, a novel, The Intermission, The Floating Feldmans, and the new book, Last Summer at the Golden Hotel. The website is ElyssaFriedland.com. That's ELYSSA. Friedland, ElyssaFriedland.com. Elyssa, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners, or any other products you want to promote?
I just hope everyone checks out Last Summer at the Golden Hotel. It's been described as a hug of a book, and exactly what we need after coming out of this year of COVID. And I think it's like nostalgic, it's funny, it's relatable, and I think that everyone will enjoy it.
Agreed. Elyssa Friedland, thanks so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. That's www.workfromhomeshow.com. Leave us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever podcasting platform you use. If you have any questions, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. And until next week, keep on working from home.